just leave it for a bit.
Do what you want.
Well, I don't know what I want. That's the thing. I'm going to leave it for a bit.
Yeah.
Leave it for a bit. I'll leave it for a bit.
I did a little bit of research about Chris White.
Yeah, go on. Talk
Very
to
interesting.
Me.
You know, his wife is an artist and was also a singer.
I know
and
that she's a
songwriter.
singer. I know that she's a singer. I don't know.
Do you remember we went to see Odyssey and Oracle on stage?
When we see?
Odyssey and Oracle.
Yeah.
That was her artwork in the background.
Oh, baby, I love your way.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a little bit nervous. Here comes Chris White. Now, I need to get everything set up. If you've got any questions in the chat, you let us know. Let's get Chris in. I've got to move this here. Just move over there. Oh, I've got it set for the wrong. I can do this quickly. There we go. Chris, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
And we can see you, Chris. Honestly, the number of issues we have with Zoom every time.
Yeah, we tried to speak to Elvis a couple of weeks ago and we had no joy, did
Well,
we?
it's partly because the real Elvis is dead, but this was... Chris, can I ask, you're wearing a gilet or a body warmer during the hottest day of the year. What is going on, man?
I adjust my temperature quite easily, you know, and I probably got ice cream stains on my shirt, so you know.
First of all, it's so lovely to see you. We had you booked before, and I got ill, and we had to postpone. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure
for that. It's honestly such a thrill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where to start because I'm a little bit overwhelmed. You go first, Catherine.
First of all, thank you for Odyssey and Oracle. It's one of our all-time favourites together. And we also saw the recent...
recent. It was a few years ago now at the Palladium.
Before we were all locked away, it was very nice to go and see it at the Palladium. And I understand it's your wife's artwork in the background, so it's a real team effort.
That's correct, yeah. My wife's... we work together and write songs together as well. And she's got a book of artwork out as well. So basically, yeah, we have a good part. We've been together for 30 years, so, you know...
And what is lovely, look, I think that you've got a bass guitar behind you, you've got a keyboard behind you, you've got a very messy desk behind you.
It's a busy desk.
We're going to talk about the Chris White experience and all of these releases, but you are still doing it, aren't you? You're still doing music.
What else am I going to do?
It's true.
I was going to be an art teacher. I spent 4 years in art college. And then at the last minute, we were working in the group for the Zombies, obviously, in 61 onwards. And then in 64, the others were going to college and all sorts of things. We thought as a last throw, we'll enter a contest. And we won the bloody thing. So that's what happened in 64. And then our first recording was She's Not There, which...
As a debut single, there is often a pub game. Which band had the best debut single?
Yeah.
As a first single, She's Not There. That's a pretty...
There was no warm-up, was there? You went straight in.
That's right, absolutely. It was our first recording session.
Wow.
And at that session, we were one of those evening things, and we were working on 4-track, and the engineer had been at a wedding all day. We started in the evening, and he was absolutely pissed, and he collapsed halfway through the session because he was shouting us and everything. And Colin said, basically, if this is what going to recording, so I don't want to do it, you know. But then he collapsed, and we had to carry him out, you know, having arms and legs, and put him in a taxi. And then the tape operator took over, and the tape operator was Gus Dudgeon.
Oh, okay, yes, I know that name.
It was his first recording session. And so he was it was our first recording session and Gus Dudgeon's.
How old were you? You'd have been babies, wouldn't you? 18, something like that?
I can't remember. I suppose I was 20, I think.
Wow.
Or 21, I can't remember, yeah.
And you all got... Did you all go to the same school in St Albans?
No, we were in... Colin and I came from one school. Rod and the other two, Hugh and Paul, came from the St Albans school. We're two nearby schools, basically. Yeah. And Rob was looking to put a band together. I joined after the bass player was at my school. He wanted to take his A-levels, so he left, and they caught him playing bass guitar with one hand in his pocket. So
Oh.
Well, hang on a minute. I've got a terrible image in my head with what he was doing with that hand.
I think you're about right.
Yeah, well, it was open string, so it was in the key of A. See, so it was just playing like.
Oh, okay, all right. How did She's Not There come about? I mean, you guys, you're working up this song. Obviously, it's a classic, right? And obviously, it's a brilliant song, and I find it kind of spooky, and it's very strange. At what point did you go, oh, I think this might be, I think we've got something special here?
Well, our producer, Ken Jones at the time, said basically, why don't you write something? Try and write something. So Rod wrote She's Not There, and I wrote another song called Do Make Me Feel Good. And that was the 3 recordings we did of Summertime as well. And then there was a toss-up between She's Not There and You Make Me Feel Good. And we just thought we had to write songs, basically, to enjoy ourselves. And it just happened, you know, we're lucky.
Still a new thing, though, in the early to mid-'60s, you know, because it was all American songwriters, it was all Tim Pan Alley, obviously until the Beatles came through and kind of kicked that door open, but still...
Absolutely. It was the Beatles that opened it. And in fact, our most exciting period was there was a program called Jukebox Jury on television.
Yeah.
And She's Not There came on, and George Harrison was one of the panelists.
No, what did he say?
I like that. He said, basically, nice bass playing. You know,
That's high praise from him, isn't it?
Yeah,
High
we
praise.
go. He's a miserable git.
Whoa!
So you got a hit from a Beatle.
Yeah, absolutely.
May I go off on a slight tangent? I'm always fascinated with 60s bands, right? Because whenever anyone talks about the 60s, it's the Beatles and the Stones, maybe the Kinks and the Who, and all of the other wonderful bands, the Zombies, the Hollies, all of these great groups kind of are in the shadow a little bit. Do you ever get resentful of the Beatles and the Stones hogging the 60s limelight?
Not in the slightest.
Okay.
Because basically, I mean, we're all in our late 70s. I'm 80 next year, but basically, we for 30 years nobody knew who the hell we were until people like Tom Petty and Paul Weller talked about Odyssey and Oracles. Nobody wanted it when it came out. That's why we split up. Mm. And then all of a sudden, we got nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in America, and we got inducted in 2019, which was success after 40 years, basically. And at our age, it doesn't go to your head, you know, basically.
Well, you're a baby if you're 80 next year, because McCartney's 80 this week, so you're still a kid. It was a rocky road for the Zombies, though. It was. You feel like such a weird band because your story is not linear. You know, it starts with this great single, it kind of wobbles about a bit and almost ends with, you know, like a little whimper when Odyssey and Oracle first comes out.
Yeah.
And no one was interested in that album, were they, at the start?
Not at the time, no. But now then, the weird thing is, people that we respected and were heroes about, like Tom Petty and Benmont Tench and Dave Grohl, and saying, quote it as influential on them. And that was to meet our heroes and then say, which we were appreciating. And they sort of said that really, in fact, while we were inducted on stage in the Barclays Center in New York, 3,000 people there, Brian May came backstage while we were doing the interview and said, just like to say how much you influenced Queen.
Wow.
And
what do you do with that? How do you get your head through the door when people are saying things like that to you?
At our age, you see, it's sort of justification.
Yes.
And
it was good.
And years earlier, I was touring with Argent, who Rod and I were producing and writing for. And we were in Los Angeles, and I wasn't playing with them. I just produced them and wrote for them. And we went to a party in Beverly Hills. It was Eric Burden's launch of his group War, and Jimi Hendrix was there. Wow. And at his house, they had all the stars, and it was a launch party. And I was sitting at the bar having a drink, and Jimi Hendrix came and sat beside me. And he said, "Oh, yeah, you're in the Zombies." He said, and he sang Time of the Season to me.
Oh, my God.
Oy, oy.
That's because we're still all friends, the Zombies. We still like each other, which is very rare for 60s groups, you know.
That is very true. There's always, you know, I mean, the Kinks is the obvious one. Those Davies brothers, they ain't never going to do it again. Odyssey and Oracle is fascinating, and I love 60s music, Chris. I'm a big Monkees and Beach Boys and Beatles fan. I was quite late to Odyssey and Oracle. It was about 10 years ago that it came into my world, and for me, it's like Forever Changes by Love. It's just this unique sounding, timeless record. What was it like recording that? Was it a smooth process?
Well, we walked into Abbey Road Studios. We were the first people who weren't signed to EMI to use the studios. Just as Sgt. Pepper, they came out finishing Sgt. Pepper. The Beatles walked out as we walked in, basically. And it was on 4-track. It was a 4-track recording.
Right.
And nowadays it's hundreds of tracks, but basically and we were only given £1,000 to do the album.
Gosh, okay.
Right. So, and Rod and I, we weren't quite happy with the production that had been done with us at that point. Although he was great, Ken Jones, but we wanted to produce ourselves as we were the writers.
Yeah.
So it was our first production job as well. And Rod basically, he said, after we did the album, he said basically, he's very generous of him because he'd written 3 of the big hits then. He said, why don't we put our joint names on everything we write? Because one song will keep us going.
Right.
And that was fantastic. The next song was Hold Your Head Up by Arjun, which I wrote, but he gets half of it as well. So I don't care. He made that generous offer, you know.
I wonder whether that plays a part in you all still getting on with each other, because the money thing does seem to interfere somewhat, doesn't it? Sometimes
Yeah.
with bands.
Yeah, it does, because Rod and I were the only people who had any income in the early days because we were writers, you know.
Yeah.
And then we got screwed by about 2 million quid. We found out many years later. Tito Burns, who was our manager, and one story, which was basically in 1967, I think it was, we went into his office and he said, we had no work, you see, and we said, is there any work in England? He said, I can offer you 10 days in the Philippines. We said, what, Philippines? Why you can't work over here? And he said, well, they'll pay all your accommodation, equipment, and travel and everything, and you pay 10 days there. We said, oh, what's that, 400 quid then? He said, no, it's 100 quid between you. And
Flipping heck.
And so basically we thought we were playing the hotel foyer. It turned out after a 30-hour plane journey, we met with 1,000 kids in the airport in Manila.
Yeah.
And we had 3 or 4 records in the top 20. We didn't know, because it was before the internet, you see.
Yeah.
And then they pulled up at a house in the middle of the night, or a building. We said, what's this? He said, that's where you're staying. It's the Araneta Coliseum, which happened to be the second biggest Astrodome next to Houston. We played 10 days to 30,000 people a night for 18 quid each.
Flipping it.
Chris, I mean, it's the cliche, isn't it? The band getting ripped off, but that's outstanding.
Well, yeah, but we still carried on. We're still here, and we're still friends, and we still write. That's the most important thing.
I want to get onto the new stuff in a bit, and because I've been listening to the 5 CDs, the Chris White Experience. There's some amazing stuff on this, some real gems. But just quickly, the Odyssey and Oracle. I just want to tie that tale up. It was overlooked. The guy that did the artwork spelled Odyssey wrong,
that's right.
So it's misspelled. And am I right? It kind of it came out in the UK without a trace. And Colin, the singer, for those who don't know, went to work in like a tax office or something. He got a proper job.
It was an insurance office because his dad said, we're not sitting around not doing anything. So he took the first job he could get.
He just recorded what is one of the greatest albums of all time.
Beautiful.
No one bought it. He went and worked in a tax office for a while.
Right.
That's his. And am I right? It kind of slowly took off in the States and got some traction over there.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And people like Tom Petty still quotes it as one of his favourite albums because it turned out that when he was 14, he came along to one of our gigs in America.
Isn't that funny?
And so, because I'm quite friendly with Ben Montench, who's his keyboard player and everything. Yeah. And it's weird. Paul Weller, when we played, we did the premiere of it in Shepherd's Bush in, I think, 2000 or something, 8, I think it was, because we'd never played the album on stage. So we did it exactly as we recorded it at Shepherd's Bush. And Paul, what's his name?
Go on, but Weller?
Thank you. Paul Weller came back, and I shyly went up to him and shook my hand, put my hand out and shook it. I said, so lovely to meet you. And I said, my name's Chris. He said, Chris White. And gave me a great bear hug and said, you're the reason I started writing songs.
Oh, my God. Wow.
I mean, these people that we sort of thought were fantastic, it turned out to be influenced by, which is the best you can do. The best thing you can do with music is to make memories for people, you know, to be part of their lives. And that's the best thing to do. That's what's kept us going, you know, through thick and thin, you know, and friendship.
Colin Blunstone has got even now, God knows how.
A young man's voice. I don't
That
know.
voice,
Even
it's
better now. He's really fantastic.
It's
Yeah.
like honey. It's beautiful. Alfie in the chat is saying that he loves the Blundstone album 1 Year, which I think you co-produced.
That's right. Yeah, well, we talked Colin into Rod and I producing him. We had a deal with CBS after we got the Time of the Season was a hit. We got a deal with CBS in New York, and so we started producing other people as well. And 1 year was fantastic because we wanted something different, and we tried different arrangements. Then we found Chris Gunning, who was a young arranger, and did the fantastic quartet arrangements, and he still is going very well. And so it was a pleasure working with all the people still, you know, at that time, because Rod had his group Argent we put together, and all you really want to do is write songs and influence people, to be quite honest. And if you give pleasure to people, that's even better, you know.
What's great, so there's a 5 CD set. It's on Spotify. We'll put the links to Chris's website if you want the physical. The Chris White Experience. Can you explain, because it's a mixture of stuff from your career, isn't it? What is it?
That's right. Well, basically, I found there were tapes in my mother-in-law's attic, which I've kept for years and years.
That's such a British pop rock star. You know, the Americans, they were in the vaults at CBS. Yeah, my mother-in-law had them in the loft.
So, therefore, my sons, Matthew and Jamie, Matthew was in producing, engineering, and Jamie was financial controlling things, and had his own group, and I had toured with the Zombies as a backup group.
Yeah.
They looked through and they found about 800 tapes. And I said, well, let's take advantage of being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and put the demos out. And so they started doing it, and they really are in control of it all. So there's about 8 CDs to come out. You know.
There's more to come.
Oh,
they're incredible. I mean, you could listen to them in sequence. I was just kind of jumping around and going, right, I don't know this one. What's that? I don't know what this one is. And what? Talk to him. So there's one I've got to try and remember, because it blew my mind. You talk to Chris while I try and find this song.
This is ADHD at work.
He's
been seized. Graham in the chat is asking who influenced you. You talked a lot about leaving a legacy and being thrilled when people are influenced by you, but who was it that did it for you?
Well, in the early days, obviously Presley, really, and Buddy Holly and Del Shannon. All our heroes we worked with, and they were such lovely people as well. And they always influenced us, you know, and Motown stuff as well. Because when we went to America, the first time was we went professional in July of '64. Christmas '64, we went over to New York for the Murray the K's Christmas show, which was, we played 8 shows a day over the Christmas period with Benny King, Chuck Jackson, Dionne Warwick, the Shangri-Las, all these people. We met our heroes. We were quite frightened, basically, and that was our introduction to America, which was absolutely fantastic. You know.
Gosh, that sounds great.
The song "Good Morning."
Oh yeah,
That's a great song, man. It's got these. I mean, it's quite repetitive, but that's the charm. It's got these wonderful Beach Boys. The Beach Boys. That's a different one altogether. You don't want to go there. Star harmonies. So, I mean, that was Kevin Finn.
Yes.
So you were writing and producing all these different artists.
Well, that was a demo I made with Kevin Finn and Eve Graham, who were from the New Seekers, because I knew them, and they did lots of my demos as well, basically. We thought it was a song that should be good for a TV program or radio program, and it was a fun thing to do. Really simple as that. It was never released. It was just done as a demo.
Was it not? Because saying it's the New Seekers makes perfect sense, because it's that I love the New Seekers, that tight harmonies. So how much of this stuff was not released? Most of it, then.
Most of it, yeah.
Wow. Well, there's about 60, at least 60 songs in there.
Well, there's stuff that Paul McCartney said. He said, when you do things, if it doesn't do anything, you put it in the fridge and bring it out later and see if you can do something with it. That's really the philosophy behind it all.
You still writing, Chris? I mean, when was the last time you were sat at that keyboard writing something new?
Probably last year.
Right.
Because I've just moved down to Salisbury, so we're still unpacking, basically, because we were based in London. But most of the demos are done here.
Fantastic. And what are the chances of the Zombies, you guys doing it again?
I don't think so.
Right.
We were lucky enough to do about 3 tours in America with the touring Zombies, which Colin and Rod and three other great musicians. And we did, as a second half, we did the whole of Odyssey in Oracle exactly as we recorded it.
Yeah.
And we actually stole the keyboard player with Brian Wilson.
Darian Sahanaja.
That's right.
Wow, he's great, yeah.
And the last tour we did in America, we did backing up the Beach Boys. So we toured with the Beach Boys. It was fantastic, you know.
What fun. Darian Sahanaja, for those who don't know, was in a group called the Wonder Mints, and he he helped Brian Wilson complete Smile. He can recreate the 60s sound.
Yeah.
I say he's a young man, he's probably the same age as me now. But he knows that 60s sound and can get it spot on, can't he?
Oh, absolutely. And the wonderful thing is he's so quiet and downgraded, basically, because then when we were rehearsing Odyssey and Oracle, he phoned me. He said, I'm coming over to see the premiere of Odyssey and Oracle. He said, jokingly, he said, do you want another keyboard player? So I took Rod along to see the Beach Boys, and we decided to ask him to play the Mellotron parts because Rod couldn't play 2 keyboards at the same time.
Yeah.
So he came and did it willingly. He'd already got tickets, so we had to give them to someone else. So we paid him to come over and play with us. And he's a great friend of ours, and he really is. And when we did rehearsals, he quietly came over to Rod as we were rehearsing and said, Rod, when you played that part, he said, you on the record you played so-and-so. Rod said, I didn't. Then he listened to it. He said, oh, yes, I did. So he knew more than Rod about what he played.
He's going up to Rod and saying, don't be rude, but that's wrong.
You played it wrong?
That's not what you did. Am I right? When we saw you guys that played it, that was a real Mellotron, wasn't it? You had on stage?
No, it wasn't a Mellotron, because the Mellotrons basically got tapes coming at the back.
Oh,
and they
okay.
It was electronic Mellotron sound, yeah.
Okay, because those Mellotrons are famously unreliable. It's the first kind of sequencing, and it's you're right. It's tape. That's Mellotron, of course, is Strawberry Fields Forever.
Mm-hmm.
And
Kate Bush used it as well, didn't she?
Yeah. But
when we walked into Abbey Road, John Lennon's Mellotron was there, and that's why Rod's eyes lit up. You see, because we only had £1,000 to do an album.
Yeah.
And because that's where we get all the Mellotron parts in Odyssey and Oracle. Thank you, John Lennon.
Steve wants to know: are you still in touch with Russ Ballard?
Oh yeah. In fact, I spoke to his to Bob Henry today. Funny enough, yeah, I'm still in touch with Russ. Yeah, we're still all friends. That's the nice thing about us lot, you know.
That's not the way it should be.
I know.
You should have fallen out.
Yeah.
And you don't want to talk about the Zombies, and you and Colin never got on. That's what it's supposed to. And I love it. The Zombies. It's a very British.
Yeah.
Everyone says the Kinks are British, and actually they kind of went a bit American. But the Zombies, this very British, gentlemanly,
artistic.
We weren't that gentlemanly, I tell you.
Bit of boozing back in the day, was there, Chris?
Of course there was.
What's the point of?
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. What's the point of being a pop star if you can't have fun? For me, this will be our year. There are a few songs that can get me in tears, right? And
does me as well.
it's God, that one really hits you there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We played it just before you came on. It's so beautiful, and it's Colin's voice and the background and everything. I'm going to say something that might sound patronising. You know that Odyssey and Oracle is a masterpiece, right? You know it's a masterpiece.
I've been told, yeah. But it was something that we did, really, basically.
Yeah, I love it. It's brilliant.
Well, it's become the perennial wedding song now. This will be our year. Yeah. I played it at 2 of my sons' weddings. So.
Did you really? Am I right? You said is it both your sons that are in a band, or one of them?
No, they're both. We've got a company, and they're signing other people as well. They run the Chris White Experience. That isn't my idea. The Chris White Experience. That was their idea.
Okay.
But they run it. They work with us now, and my wife. And she does designs, and my youngest son is writing my life story now, so it's a family affair.
I don't know if I'd want my kids to know all of my life story. That's very.
I've never kept secrets. That's a secret. You know?
So so the book's coming out at some point.
Well, when it's written.
when it's written. Chris, it's so lovely to meet you. Honestly, you are an integral part of the soundtrack of my life. And. thank you for doing it, and thank you for, thank your boys for putting all of this stuff out as well, because it's a treasure trove of, hits, misses, and things that were stuck in your mother-in-law's attic. So thank you for that.
It's a pleasure. And of course, they decided to put some of my productions out of groups that never got released, like the Sparrow and things like that. So, and of course, I did the early Dire Straits demos as well.
Excuse me, what? Sorry, now?
I did Dire Straits' first demos.
I did not know that. How did that come about?
Well, the publisher at the time said, "We've got this group we want to get signed. Can you just go along and do demos for them?" So I did 3 tracks actually, and because they were really good, very tight. So I went along to see them in London, and they just knocked me out. Actually, they're really good. And of course, they always said that he got very arrogant. He was always arrogant.
That's
people
good to know.
noticed.
That's good to know.
Because he always knew what he wanted. You know?
Yeah.
He wasn't
Perfectionist.
Yeah.
Chris, it's so lovely to talk to you.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much. When the book comes out, get in touch. We'll have you back on again. It will be an absolute joy. And again, just thank you. Here's ABBA. Thank you for the music. It means the world. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I just watched your birthday party one.
Oh my God! No, don't watch any of this show. It's rubbish.
Now you've got no secrets.
I'm surprised you still came on. Going, I thought this was a professional affair.
That was very funny. Well, chaotic, yeah.
Exactly, the chaotic is
we
the
can
word.
assure you of that, every time.
Chris, so lovely to see you. Stay safe, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Have a good time, all right?
Take
Bye,
care.
Chris.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
There we go. Isn't that fantastic?
He was a joy.
I
My face is aching from smiling.
Genuinely nervous.
I know you did. You lost it.
I'm genuinely nervous. That doesn't happen very often. Let me play you this song. Chris White. No, not that one. Not Galileo. Good morning. It's nuts, right? This is. If you're an ADHD, this song is written for ADHD people, right? Because it's so repetitive. I flipping love this. I had this on repeat the other day. Some of you may hate this. That's your prerogative, guys. That's your prerogative. But let me just play a little bit. You keep getting flashes of my kids, which is very exciting. Listen to this, man. This is ridiculous.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Look at the suit. Pretty much the whole song.
Oh. You know where this should be played?
Go on.
Your first show, man.